Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Gavin, and what I'm about to share with you still stings a little. When my fiancée told me she had a date a few months before our wedding, I do not think she expected the way I responded. It crushed her. She didn't see it coming, but I meant every word and every silence after that day. Now, before you jump to conclusions or try to fill in the blanks yourself, I want to take you back. Because we didn't start here. Things were once good, but slowly they changed. And I want to walk you through how we went from planning a life together to watching it fall apart piece by piece. We had been together for a little over 3 years. Engaged for the past one. Her name is Julia. I met her at a church program, actually. Nothing romantic at first. She was part of the organizing team, and I got her number just to stay updated about the event. It was strictly for communication, but after the program wrapped up, we kept in touch. At first, it was just casual conversations, little chats here and there. One conversation led to another, and the friendship slowly grew into something more. Before we knew it, we were dating. Things just felt natural. Over time, we built something steady, and after about 2 years of being together, I proposed. She said yes. That's how we got engaged. At that point, we were in the thick of our adult lives. I had my career, and she had hers, both of us working long hours and juggling responsibilities that came with being independent adults. Life wasn't always easy, but we tried to make space for each other. As the wedding started to become more real, we began talking seriously about moving in together. The thought was simple. Since we were going to be married soon, why not start adjusting to life under the same roof? We figured it would help us connect more deeply, especially with how crazy our schedules were getting. But there was a problem. My apartment, the one I had been living in for a while, was too far from her workplace. Like really far. At first, we thought maybe we could find a way around it. But in the end, we dropped the idea. It felt like too much stress to change everything right before a wedding. And truthfully, we were both tired from everything else we were already handling. So we let the idea go. Now that I look back, I realize that was a missed opportunity. A small moment we could have pushed a little harder. If we had moved in, we would have probably seen certain things earlier. Or we would have communicated better, and at least noticed the cracks before they widened. Things didn't go bad all at once. It was more like a slow drift. At first, I didn't even realize we were growing apart. I mean, Julia and I had always been busy. We both work full-time. But slowly, things started changing in ways I couldn't ignore. She used to pick up my calls almost instantly, or at least get back to me quickly if she missed one. But then it became a pattern. I'd call, and she wouldn't answer. No text. No, I'll call you back. Just silence for hours. And when she finally did return the call, the explanation was always the same. Oh, I left my phone in my bag, or I was busy. And she'd say it in a way that made it clear she expected me to just accept it and move on with no questions asked. Then came the cancellations. We'd make plans, and she'd back out last minute. Sometimes she'd say she was tired, other times it was work stuff, or she just wasn't feeling up to it. But it started happening more and more. At first, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Life gets overwhelming sometimes. But after a while, her excuses didn't feel honest anymore. They started to sound like someone trying to avoid spending time with me, not someone who's genuinely busy. It's a terrible feeling when someone you love starts to feel like they're slipping through your fingers, and you can't even get a grip on what's going wrong. What made it worse was that when she was with me, she wasn't really present. I'd be sitting right there beside her, and she'd be glued to her phone, texting, scrolling, laughing at messages. I couldn't help but notice the contradiction. When I call or text, she's always away from her phone, but when she's with me, she's constantly on it. It didn't add up. It made me wonder who she was always talking to. What was so important that it needed her attention even when we barely had time together? I tried to talk to her about it. I told her I felt disconnected, like I was talking to a wall while she was somewhere else. But instead of listening, she got defensive, said I was being insecure, paranoid, and making a big deal out of nothing. That hurt more than I can explain. I started to pull back emotionally, not out of spite, but because I was tired of explaining myself and feeling like I was begging for attention. The more I brought up how things had changed between us, the colder she became. The affection that used to be there started fading. And every time we argued about how I was feeling, it seemed to make things worse instead of better. It was like walking on eggshells just to talk about my own needs. Weekends used to be our time. Since we were both busy during the week, Julia usually came over on weekends, and we'd catch up, relax, and enjoy each other's company. But that changed, too. She started skipping weekends, saying she had errands or family stuff. Sometimes no real reason at all. It wasn't just one weekend. It became a pattern. I'd be sitting at home, waiting, and thinking she'd show up, and she wouldn't. I started questioning everything she told me. I wanted to believe her, but her actions just didn't line up with her words. At some point, I stopped bringing it up because it felt like no matter what I said, it wouldn't change anything. So I bottled it. I was starting to feel abandoned by the person I was supposed to be building a life with. And that's when I realized something was seriously wrong. Despite everything, I still wanted to believe we had a shot. Perhaps I was being stubborn, or I just didn't want to admit that the woman I was supposed to marry was slowly checking out. But at the time, I wasn't ready to walk away. In my mind, if I just made a real effort, like a clear, no room for misunderstanding type of effort, she'd see I was still here trying. So, that Saturday morning, I decided I was going to plan something simple but meaningful. The plan was to take her out for a picnic and have a quiet afternoon at the park with sandwiches, fruit, and drinks. Then, after the picnic, I thought we could come back to my place and cook dinner together. Her favorite meal. That used to be our thing, cooking together. I thought this could be an opportunity to reconnect. But this time, I wasn't being naive. I checked her schedule earlier in the week. I made sure she didn't have anything planned that day. I even replayed our last few conversations in my head just to be sure we weren't in some weird silent fight that I'd missed. As far as I could tell, everything was fine. It felt like the right time to make this move. I really believed it could help us find our rhythm again and remind her that what we had was still worth holding on to. So I picked up my phone and called her that morning, excited to tell her the plan. But she didn't answer. No big deal, I thought at first. I waited a bit, then sent her a message. Hey, give me a call when you see this. I've got something planned for us today. And then I waited. 10 minutes. 20. An hour. Still nothing. It took her another hour to call me back. Before then, I was trying not to let my mind go to the worst places. But of course it did. You know that feeling when you're trying to convince yourself not to overthink something, but every minute that passes makes it harder not to? Yeah, that was me. When she finally called, I picked up almost immediately. I didn't even bother pretending to be busy or waiting a few seconds. I just answered. I told her my idea, laid it all out, the picnic, the cooking, the quiet evening at home. I really believed she'd hear the effort in it, see what I was trying to do. But the moment I finished talking, she cut in with this flat, casual tone and said, it wouldn't be possible. So I asked her why. She said, I have a date. I remember going quiet for a second. Not because I didn't know what to say, but because I couldn't believe what I just heard. I mean, how do you even respond to something like that? What are you supposed to say? So I just said, all right. And then I ended the call. That was the exact moment my heart caught up with what my mind had been trying to deny for months. Everything just made sense. She didn't call back. No quick text. No, hey, I didn't mean that, or let me explain. Nothing. We both knew what I meant by all right. And still, silence. That silence said everything. I knew deep down in my gut, the wedding wasn't happening. There was no way in hell I was going to marry someone who could look at everything we had, everything we built, and choose to treat me like I was disposable. Around 6 p.m., my phone lit up with a call. It was Julia. I didn't answer. I watched it ring. A minute later, a text came in. All it said was, "Are you angry?" I stared at that message for a while. I didn't feel the need to say anything at all. She knew exactly what she did. That wasn't something you say by accident. And if you do, you don't follow it with silence for the rest of the day. Not long after, another text came through. "Are you home? I'd like to come over." That's when I finally replied, "Do not set foot in my house." I think that was when everything clicked for her, that this wasn't just one of those arguments we'd sweep under the rug. This wasn't going to be like the other times when she'd gaslight me into feeling guilty or make me feel like I was overreacting. This time, it wasn't going to be business as usual. Then came the damage control. She started texting, trying to explain herself. She told me the whole date thing was a joke. Said she was just messing with me, and I took it the wrong way. She started backpedaling, trying to make it sound like I misunderstood. She claimed she had been busy all day, that work had drained her, and she hadn't meant to ignore me. She threw out a bunch of excuses, all of them vague, none of them adding up. I didn't respond to any of it. When the text didn't work, she moved to voice notes. That's when she started crying. I listened as she sobbed, telling me that I was hurting her by shutting her out, that my silence was cruel, that I was being unfair. She said that she didn't mean to push me away, and that this wasn't how things were supposed to go between us. I listened to every single one of those voice notes. But what I heard wasn't accountability. It was panic. She was panicking because I was no longer responding like the old version of me who would have tried to fix things, who would have prioritized peace over self-respect. I was tired, not just physically, but emotionally. There's something I've always believed. If something is important to you, you treat it like it is. You don't make a joke about going on a date with someone else, especially not to the person you're supposed to be marrying. You don't ignore their calls all day and then act confused when they stop trying. And when a woman truly values you, it shows in her actions, not just in her words. Making the decision to walk away wasn't as clean as just flipping a switch. I wish I could say I felt some kind of rush of pride or strength the moment I decided it was over. But the truth? It just felt heavy and exhausting. It didn't make sense to keep fighting for someone who made me feel like I was an afterthought. I walked away angry, confused, and hurt. Because when you love someone for years and give them everything you've got, and it still falls apart, you feel like a fool. And of course, once she realized I wasn't playing this time, she showed up at the same house she had been avoiding for weeks, trying to talk it out. She sent messages when I stopped picking up her calls, and when she saw I wasn't responding to the messages either, she brought in a few of our mutual friends to convince me to hear her out. But I was done. I told one of her friends word for word, as long as I breathe, we can never be together. And I meant that. I'm not going to settle for someone who treated me like an option when I treated her like a priority. Eventually, she got the message. She stopped trying to come around, stopped asking people to talk to me on her behalf. But instead of just owning what happened, she decided to rewrite the story. People who barely knew the situation started coming to me and saying, "Hey man, I heard you ended things because you couldn't take a joke," or "She says you're not understanding at all." And it's wild to me. I won't lie, I laugh when I hear it now. Because if that's the story she needs to tell to save face, that's on her. I don't even feel the need to defend myself anymore. People can believe what they want. She's in the past now. That chapter's closed. So, yeah, that's how it all went down. Looking back, I've had a lot of time to think. And if there's one thing I want people to take from this, it's this: don't tolerate emotional neglect. I know that sounds serious, and maybe even a bit dramatic to some people, but it's real. It creeps in slowly. At first, it's excuses that don't really make sense. Then one day, you realize you're the only one showing up. And when that happens, you start to lose pieces of yourself just trying to keep something alive that the other person stopped caring about a long time ago. Another thing I've learned is this: stop listening to empty apologies and start watching for patterns. People will always say, "I'm sorry." That part is easy. But do they change what they're sorry for? That's where the truth really lives. And maybe the most important thing of all, when someone shows you what you mean to them, believe them. Don't sit around hoping they'll wake up one day and suddenly appreciate you. That day may never come. And even if it does, it might be too late. Now I want to ask you, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? If someone you loved told you they had a date when you were making plans for both of you, and then brushed it off like it was a joke, how would you handle that? Would you keep trying, or would you walk? Let me know in the comments. I actually read them. And if you think someone you know needs to hear this story, Maybe they're ignoring red flags in their relationship or letting someone walk all over them. Please share this video with them. You never know who it might help. And don't forget to hit that like button if this story made you feel anything real. Thanks for sticking with me.